On the Russia investigation, James Clapper, who was the former director of national intelligence, said about a month ago, at the time he left office, he had seen no evidence of collusion or cooperation between Trump campaign associates and the Russians. Mike Morrell, who's former acting director of the CIA, said the same thing a week or so ago at a forum. He said there's smoke, 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 but there is no fire. There's no concrete evidence. What convinces you? Have you seen anything that convinces you that there is real evidence of collusion or cooperation?
Well, we have an FBI director who has said that they have an active investigation underway, Dan, into whether or not Vladimir Putin and other Russian associates and the Trump campaign were in a conspiracy to affect the outcome of this election. We know that Vladimir Putin tried to rig the election on behalf of Donald Trump. And believe me, the Democratic National Committee is well aware of this because we were a victim. And there are a remarkable series of coincidences. And we would have to accept them as a remarkable series of coincidences in order to conclude that there was no collusion. And here's the thing, Dan. The best way to answer that question, because the answer to your question is I'm not in the national security space, so I didn't have access to that. But I'll tell you, as someone who worked at the Department of Justice, you have a duty to not only do justice, but you have the duty to ensure that there's the appearance of justice. And how do you have the appearance of justice when you've got a member of Trump's transition team as the chair of the Intelligence Committee, when you have the Attorney General of the United States, who was an active surrogate for Trump, and someone who met with the ambassador from Russia at the Republican convention? I don't think the ambassador to Russia was at the Democratic convention. I'm going to go out on a limb. And what the hell are you doing at the Republican convention having a sidebar with, are you talking about LeBron James and the Cavaliers?
But weren't there a number of ambassadors at the Republican convention?
Well, but how many?
There as part of that group?
Well, but I guess the question there's so many questions. Maybe there were other ambassadors.
What I'm trying to get at is there's a lot of murkiness to this. Ambassadors meet with people in the different campaigns all the time. They meet with senators all the time. Simply having a meeting doesn't necessarily lead to the idea. I agree with you. There are a lot of coincidences. There are a lot of unanswered questions. Where's the best place to get these answers?
An independent commission. That's my point.
Not
At the Department of Justice, the Department of Justice, with all due respect, Sessions is compromised.
You believe Comey is compromised?
Well, I mean, as someone who was a federal prosecutor for the better part of a decade, there were rules and there were sacrosanct rules. And I prosecuted public officials, police chiefs, and others. I understood the rule. When you're near an election, you do not take action that can be perceived as affecting the outcome of an election. We filed suit against a guy named Joe Arpaio, the former sheriff, I'm happy to report, of Maricopa County. But we knew those rules. I don't know why Mr. Comey did what he did. I think he will live in infamy for those actions. And the reality on the ground is the American people have to have faith in the independence of investigations. That's why I believe there should be an independent counsel looking at this. Nunes is not. He's.
But I go back to the question: do you think on the Russia investigation that Director Comey is compromised?
Well, you know what? I'm not prepared to say on this particular investigation that he is. I mean, I have not seen enough evidence to make that judgment. I've seen enough evidence to make the judgment that that we need an independent counsel looking into this. And I think the more we see, what was Nunes doing? I'm familiar with what are called skiff spaces, places where you have to meet that are soundproof. with all due respect, there's more SCIF spaces in Washington, D.C. than just at the White House. I don't think I've just given up national security secrets and letting people know that. It's very interesting and odd that he had to go to the White House and not even tell his colleagues on the Intelligence Committee.
Let's stipulate that there's serious problems about whether the House Intelligence Committee can conduct this in a bipartisan or somewhat nonpartisan way. What about the Senate Intelligence Committee? They've been pretty quiet. They've stayed out of this. Do you think that they are not in a position to be able to do this? Senator Warner, who's the ranking member, said Sunday on one of the shows that an independent commission would set this back months and months and months, and that they ought to let the Senate committee do its work.
Well, I think the best way to go at this is an independent counsel.